people close to the set claimed Jason Momoa hated this one co-star more than anyone else. Thus, it's not surprising. He did not only despise her, he called her pure evil. For a man regarded as one of the friendliest faces in Hollywood, that kind of charge stunned viewers. Jason Momoa is known for being laid back, giving freely, and fiercely committed to his fellow actors. From Game of Thrones to Aquaman, he has received compliments not only for his acting, but also for how he elevates those around him. But things darkened during one significant production. Sets soured, tensions grew, and ultimately it came down to one co-star pushing things too far. What then went wrong? And how did a working relationship fall so severely apart to produce Momoa's most astonishing career statement? Let's tell the whole truth, since once you know what actually happened, you might never view this co-star the same way once the vibes changed. Jason Momoa is the guy who brings good energy wherever he goes, not only for portraying kings, fighters, or superheroes. From his early days on Baywatch Hawaii, set reported the same thing. Jason was wild, fearless, and always trying to make people laugh. Later on Stargate Atlantis, he played a quiet, brooding warrior, but off-camera, he was still that same fun-loving, generous guy who raised everyone's spirits. When he exploded onto the screen as King Drogo in Game of Thrones, he proved he didn't need much dialogue to dominate a scene. But even with the glory that followed, his reputation stayed the same modest playfulness and fiercely loyal to the people he worked with. That's what made what happened next so startling, when the cameras started rolling on Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Jason wasn't smiling, he wasn't cracking jokes, and based on people close to the set, he was avoiding one co-star entirely for a guy known for getting along with everyone. This was unheard of, and then, the moment none expected arrived. Jason Momoa supposedly called her pure evil, so what went so wrong between two stars meant to be saving the Earth together on film? Let us turn back and expose the storm building behind the scenes. The dark clouds refer to, fans were ecstatic to see Jason Momoa lead as Arthur Curry when Aquaman first came out. People loved him precisely for his wild charisma, surfer edge, and commanding screen presence. He was not the neat, clean-cut comic book version of the character. Momoa brought something novel to the superhero subgenre, but what was meant to be a dream coupling turned out to be problematic. Amber Heard, cast as Aquaman's love interest and fierce Atlantean warrior, was at his side. From the outside, everything appeared good. The trailers were explosive, the visuals were breathtaking, and first it seemed like a solid on-screen match. But behind the scenes, something was already off. Early on, crew members observed Jason, usually the center of any set, begin to pull back the fun energy he brought to every production. Press tours still took place and Gone interviews were still professional, but privately those close to the shoot say the tension between Momoa and Heard was difficult to overlook. One thing became clear: this was not the usual Jason Momoa. This was only going to get worse when the cameras returned on the sequel. Some said their chemistry felt forced, others said it barely existed at all unless the cameras were rolling. None knew exactly what was causing the strain. Evolving conflicts. First things on set during Aquaman filming seemed to be going perfectly. Jason Momoa brought his usual vitality, lighthearted, cheerful, and whimsical. Known for his jokes and pranks, he frequently helped keep long shooting days from getting too intense from under control. Not everyone valued his approach, though. While most castmates embraced Momoa's sense of humor, several crew members said Amber Heard responded poorly to his antics. Heard seemed to be growing more annoyed. She claimed in one interview that Momoa would occasionally rip pages from her books to get her attention. While some took it as a joke, others who were there saw it more as a symptom of conflict than of friendship. Their personalities presumably collided behind the scenes. Heard tended to keep to herself. Momoa was cooperative, friendly, and eager to foster friendship. Though professional, their working relationship lacked the simplicity and chemistry many had come to know from Momoa and his co-stars. Filming went on, and that distance grew more obvious. When the cameras stopped rolling, crew members noted that the two performers engaged less and less. Conversations were few, eye contact was rare, and the atmosphere on set started to change. While the first movie kept most of the tension behind closed doors, the sequel wouldn't be so lucky, with courtrooms, headlines, and fan petitions entering the picture. What had started as a quiet mismatch of personalities began to grow more serious, something that would eventually spill over into public view. The drama around Aquaman's next chapter leaked much beyond the studio door. Escalation in Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. At the time, cameras rolled on Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. The once playful energy Jason Momoa brought to set had dimmed, further replaced by something colder and more guarded. What began as mild tension during the first movie was impossible to overlook. Long days full of laughter and friendship were long gone. Instead, the atmosphere was heavy, tinged with unspoken conflict, and it was not only about conflicting personalities now. The drama had leaked headlines, courtrooms, beyond the studio gates into public opinion. Amber! Everywhere you turn, TV, Twitter, tabloids. Heard's legal fight with Johnny Depp dominated the news cycle. Her name was surrounded with controversy, and although Jason Momoa mainly refrained from speaking on the matter, those on set could sense the tensions were about to explode. The production now resembled a tightrope walk between performance and damage control, not only about producing a blockbuster. Notes from the therapist exposed during the trial fed the fire. Heard said Momoa would show up on set drunk, even dressed like Johnny Depp in what she thought was an intentional taunting. Though for many, the allegation was shocking and presented a quite different picture of the famously fun-loving star, for many, it didn't really fit. Momoa had no history of erratic behavior or unprofessional behavior. DC insiders were quick to defend him, stressing he stayed professional all during the shoot. Still, several accounts point to an indisputable tension. Momoa had become more and more annoyed behind the scenes. Some claimed he silently supported Heard's departure from the sequel, while others said he just wanted to forward with as least disturbance as possible. Already under pressure from the controversy surrounding Heard, Warner Bros. Executives apparently considered replacing her but finally decided to keep her. Her screen time dropped, her scenes were few, and her general story presence grew much more subdued. Later on, fans observed that promotional materials for the movie hardly included her, which led to rumors that internal conflicts outside the studio reduced her presence. Readers were siding. Millions of people signed a petition calling Heard off from the movie, while her supporters contended she was being unfairly singled out. The spotlight was unrelenting and uncomfortable for the crew and actors throughout. Momoa never publicly addressed the rumors. He didn't follow the headlines or respond on social media. But those who knew him well saw the indicators, the disappointment, the frustration, and the effort it took to remain focused while the production collapsed around him. This was not the typical Hollywood conflict. It was a slow public unspooling of trust and tolerance, one that concluded with a rare and terrifying comment from Momoa himself, supposedly calling Heard pure evil. For someone who gets along with everyone, it was more than just a red flag. It was a flashing siren warner. Driven in great part by Jason Momoa's magnetic performance as Arthur Curry, Bros' difficult choice to recast or not, the Aquaman franchise became one of Warner Bros' most successful endeavors. Although Amber Heard's comeback as Mera was no more a clear-cut choice, while the first Aquaman film had been a worldwide hit, behind the scenes the studio was facing an unforeseen conundrum after its release. His tough appeal and unorthodox approach gave the DC universe new vitality. Almost right away after its release, internal issues started to surface. Some studio officials apparently questioned Momoa's on-screen chemistry with Heard, noting it lacked the romantic dynamic. The narrative called for editors who had worked overtime in post-production to create a sense of connection that on set had felt strained. The issues of recasting Mera became more urgent as conversations about the sequel developed. According to several sources, Heard's personal legal battles had evolved into a worldwide spectacle, and the studio found itself caught in public opinion's crossfire. Though he remained professional in public, Jason Momoa voiced increasing annoyance behind the scenes. Combined with the controversy, the chemistry problem drove Warner Bros. Into a challenging position. The studio adopted a quieter approach instead of completely reinterpreting the part. Heard stayed on the cast, but her presence in the sequel was drastically cut. Her character would no longer be central to the narrative, and Patrick Wilson's Arthur Curry and his half-brother Orm would take front stage instead. Though few thought it had nothing to do with the behind-the-scenes conflict and social media uproar, as rumors of on-set tension between Momoa and Heard circulated, officially the studio explained the change as a creative decision. The drama around Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom burst outside the studio and onto the digital battlefield of social media. Every rumor, every quotation, every peek behind the curtain started fans, influencers, and media outlets dissecting each other. The internet soon started to take sides, particularly those connected with Johnny Depp. A growing segment of the Aquaman fanbase banded together behind a viral petition calling for Amber Heard to be taken off the movie. The effort attracted millions of signatures and became a public relations challenge for Warner Brothers. Proponents of Johnny Depp claimed that her legal disputes interfered with the filming of the movie, so causing needless drama on set. Conversely, some of Heard's supporters contended she was being unfairly singled out. They said the backlash resulted more from celebrity bias than from facts, and that punishing her professionally for personal matters created a risky precedent. The argument soon became poisonous, transforming what had once been a much-awaited sequel into a flashpoint for a far more extensive cultural debate. Trapped in the middle of this debate, Jason Momoa mainly stayed silent. He refrained from answering the petitions and from advocating either defense or condemnation. Momoa stayed focused on advancing the movie and completing his professional obligations, but even in quiet, his name stayed caught in the conversation. Some saw his neutrality as evidence of quiet disapproval. Others saw it as proof of professionalism, an actor not stepping into a storm not of his making. For Warner Brothers, the frenzy was intolerable to overlook. Every decision in marketing, every trailer release, and every press junket was under examination. Viewers were seeing the politics around the film, not only its content. The comments on social media were intensely emotional rather than merely reflexive. For many viewers, this was about loyalty, justice, and the larger dialogues on responsibility and abuse rather than a single movie or actor. Strong emotions were generated on the internet by Johnny Depp's defamation lawsuit, and battle lines had already been drawn on platforms like TikTok and Twitter by the time Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom took front stage. Entire communities developed around defending or denouncing the actors engaged. Clips were edited, ideas ranging from insightful to ridiculous proliferated like wildfire. Regularly trending hashtags linked to Heard's removal or support existed even before the movie came out. The conversation was influencing Warner Brothers, not only defining popular culture. The task transcended the screen in many respects. Protecting their billion-dollar franchise, they had to tread a tightrope to try to avoid aggravating an already tense public debate. Decisions in marketing turned into mines. Would a Mia-based trailer cause even temporary controversy? Would cutting her completely indicate cowardice or guilt? Every frame was closely examined, and every decision was computed inside the fandom. Even casual viewers started to get caught in the discussion. Could they savor a movie connected to so much controversy? Should they break out the actor from the character? From Reddit threads to YouTube breakdowns, the audience was dissecting the ethical implications of the film rather than merely consuming it. It became a referendum on what and who Hollywood was ready to support, not only about who was in the film. Underneath the camera and behind the scenes, the tension was tangible rather than merely conjecture. Though Momoa had long been known for his laid-back, fun-loving attitude on set, those close to the production noted a change in the atmosphere he once brought. Lighthearted, cooperative, and fun had grown more strained. And for many on set, the cause of that change was obvious. Crew members detailed a gulf between Momoa and Heard that transcended normal personality variances. Heard reportedly felt annoyed by Momoa's playful and prankster-like behavior, which was odd given most of his past co-stars had said he was a pleasure to work with. Rumors persisted that Momoa had purposefully dressed like Johnny Depp on set to make fun of her. Although those assertions became popular online, they were never supported. Many near the production noted that Momoa's style had always veered toward the bohemian and quirky. Long before any legal drama entered the scene, his daily look included the vintage jewelry, tough boots, layered fabrics, and worn leather accessories. Not novel. Still, the suspense grew only as the headlines kept rolling in. Many will also remember how Heard claimed in therapist notes made public during her court fight that Momoa had purposefully tried to aggravate her by showing up drunk. The charge created waves, but what most people never heard was how Momoa allegedly responded in private, according to a source close to the production. His response was fleeting but cutting. "She is pure evil," he said. It was an unusual comment from an actor known for his patience and positivity, and it captured just how strained the working relationship had grown for someone who had spent his career promoting positive energy and avoiding public controversy. Though Momoa never publicly endorsed Heard's allegations, being painted as a tormentor, especially in such a volatile legal environment, was shocking and aggravating. Those on set were quite let down by the way things had turned out. Being pulled into such a well-publicized conflict was demoralizing rather than only inconvenient. Not to negotiate a media firestorm, he had come to make a movie. Jason Momoa stayed publicly neutral, while others on set allegedly expressed more openness about the challenges of working with Heard. Though most stayed silent or avoided directly assigning blame, some cast and crew members indicated the working environment had been tense. Though their remarks were well chosen, the underlying message was clear: something had changed, and it was not unnoticed. Renowned for his cool and deliberate leadership, director James Wan made every effort to maintain the production as professional as could be. His priorities were making sure the film satisfied expectations independent of actor personal conflicts. Like Momoa, he had to negotiate the minefield of public opinion without leaning toward one side. Though Wilson did not directly address the Heard issue, other actors, including Patrick Wilson, noted on the great friendship among most of the cast members. His comments on the fun and professional surroundings on set implied that any negativity was limited to particular people rather than influencing the whole output by the end of filming. One could clearly see the emotional cost. What should have been a celebration of a successful sequel felt instead for Momoa as the end of a protracted, challenging chapter. The experience had been more complex than any role before it, not because of the underwater stunts or physical demands, but rather because of the invisible tension that never quite left the set. Where do they currently stand with Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom now published? Though the dust has started to settle, the events behind the scenes still have an effect. Though the public mostly sees Jason Momoa as undamaged from the experience, he still enjoys a great career, and his reputation as a beloved actor and likable co-star is intact, despite the controversy around the production. Critics of his silence among the turmoil saw it as evidence of professionalism rather than apathy. Many on social media praised Momoa's calm resolution of the matter, stressing how rare it is for a well-known actor to remain out of the drama totally, in a time when so many celebrities turn to Instagram or press trips to protect their image. Momoa's silence resembled quiet assurance. His body of work and the loyalty of his fellow actors spoke for him. He had no need to prove anything. The general public loved that. For longtime supporters, it simply strengthened their respect for Momoa. It was about safeguarding the work, not only about avoiding headlines. Although the sequel got a mixed reaction, his performance was once more excellent. Amber here, though her legal case with Johnny Depp is settled, Heard is still under public scrutiny. She keeps some support, but her Hollywood future is yet unknown. Though she reprised her character as Mia in the sequel, her on-screen presence was scant, and most public discussion stayed on her off-screen conflicts outside of Aquaman. Heard starred in the 2023 indie film In the Fire and later moved to Spain for a more private life, free from any stated major studio projects. Her long-term career path in the film business is still unknown behind the scenes. Warner Brothers gained some difficult knowledge. The studio was caught between a loyal fan base, a contentious legal fight, and internal strife it could no longer overlook, particularly with regard to franchises with billion-dollar stakes in the era of viral outrage and real-time backlash. Future casting choices will probably be made with far more care. Public opinion has grown as powerful as box office receipts. In a time when everything from court records to beginning rumors can go viral overnight and define performance from persona. Hollywood now is about optics, timing, and the capacity to weather storms both on-screen and off, not only about acting. The Aquaman debate showed how strongly real-world conflict pulls even big-budget movies. Originally a fantasy epic about kings and kingdoms, what started out as a reflection of how rapidly public narratives can change, how quickly reputations can evolve, and how little privacy remains for celebrities became, for Jason Momoa, caught in the crossfire. The experience tested discipline. He said nothing as others speculated. He arrived, worked, and let his deeds speak louder than any headline. If anything, the experience strengthened his view as someone who upholds professionalism, loyalty, and privacy, qualities increasingly rare in the entertainment scene of today. Although Amber Heard's chapter in the DCU might have ended quietly, the noise surrounding it will probably reverberate for years. Her part in Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom was diminished, but the debate over her presence was anything from minor. It remains to be seen whether Hollywood and viewers will totally embrace her once more. The CGI or box office totals won't define Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom's actual legacy. It will be the reminder that no production is free from personal politics, and that occasionally the most interesting drama isn't what's planned, it's what happens when the camera stops rolling. And for those who followed the conflict between Momoa and Heard, the breakdown of their working relationship may have been dramatic, but in the end, it was not surprising at all, especially in view of the public controversies Heard from past relationships and projects into this one had generated. The circumstances also begged awkward questions regarding the degree of influence fans should have on the direction of a team. Should studios comply with petitions? As the lines blur between entertainment and online activity, should public opinion guide casting, or should the integrity of the story and the work done behind the scenes matter more? Ignoring these questions gets more difficult. Should Hollywood separate personal affairs from professional roles, or should an actor's off-screen controversies affect their place in a major franchise? Let me know what you think.